What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I've been playing a lot of Fallout 76 lately. Say what you will about the game, there's one thing the game did extremely well, and that is dispelling some stereotypes about West Virginia and West Virginians in general. So, due to the current situation, I have finally started playing Fallout 76 again, especially I think about a week before the Wastelanders patch came out. I actually started playing the game again, but way back before this even, back in January, they released a study about how people who played Fallout 76 generally reported having a higher opinion about the state of West Virginia after playing the game. So I want to make a real quick video explaining some of the things I think Bethesda did right in order to change some of the general misconceptions about the Mountain State and about the people of West Virginia. West Virginia does have some real issues. We have an obesity epidemic, we have an opioid epidemic, we have widespread generational poverty issues, and then we also just have a bunch of other ridiculous stereotypes associated with the state. Some of those include things like, yes, we do have shoes, we do have internet, we do have running water, we do use toilet paper, we don't use corn cobs, although in the current climate that might not always be the case. The Beverly Hillbillies were actually from the Ozarks, not the Appalachians, but there's a lot of confusion about that. Deliverance was based in Georgia, filmed in South Carolina and Georgia. There's absolutely no West Virginia connection there. And Wrong Turn, even though it is based in West Virginia, is actually pretty much just an adaptation of The Hills Have Eyes, which was a movie that heavily pulled inspiration from a case of, and historians kind of dispute this, a family of cannibals from, I believe, 16th century Scotland. So again, that has absolutely no connection to the Mountain State. So what did Bethesda do right in order to break the mold about people's opinions on the Mountain State? First of all, it started the players right in the middle of West Virginia. As soon as you leave Vault 76, you walk out into literally the middle of the map. There's no preparing yourself for West Virginia. You leave the vault and you are in the heart of West Virginia. You are in an area known as the Forest. And the Forest is the least like what you would expect to see in other Fallout games. It's just rolling hills and dense forest. I didn't notice this until I started going back and getting some pictures for this video, but you can actually see the New River Gorge Bridge from the observation deck of Fallout 76, which is probably one of the most iconic structures in West Virginia, most commonly associated with the Mountain State. This area also has a lot of hiking trails and cabins, fully intact houses, fire watchtowers, and even covered bridges, which play a very significant role in the history and just culture of West Virginia. The second thing that Bethesda did was they immediately start showing West Virginians as hardworking and resourceful. One of the first areas that will pop up on your radar after you leave Vault 76 is the Moonshiner Shack. This actually does two things very well when it comes to the game. Number one, from a gameplay perspective, Fallout 76 is a game that has survival elements. Therefore, it reminds the players that they are going to have to gather resources in order to craft things like food and beverages, weapons, armor, etc. But from a cultural point of view, it does kind of make a point that West Virginians are pretty ingenuitive. We are very creative, And fun relevant fact, there has been at least one West Virginia distillery that has rolled back production a little bit in order to produce hand sanitizer. So again, we are a very resourceful group of individuals here in the Mountain State. And alcoholic beverages actually play a pretty major role in modern West Virginia tourism. There's many breweries, wineries, and distilleries all across the state, other locations in the forest that showcase the working spirit of the Mountain State include lumber mills, railroads, family farms, mines, factories, and power plants. Lastly, one of the first factions you will come in contact with after leaving Vault 76 is a group of survivors known as the Responders. The Responders are essentially EMTs, firefighters, police officers that banded together in order to try and keep some semblance of society after the bombs fell. And the Responders kind of represent the ruggedness and the sense of community that a lot of West Virginians have, but it just doesn't get showcased super often. Another thing Bethesda did a really good job at is they immediately started introducing little bits of West Virginia folklore and history into the game. One of the first towns you will come across when you play Fallout 76 is the town of Flatwoods. In real life, there isn't a whole lot in Flatwoods. It's just kind of known for being the geographical center of the state. It's located about 130 miles north of Bluefield, which is considered by most to be the most southern town in West Virginia, and about 80 to 90 miles south of Morgantown, which is one of the northernmost towns in West Virginia. And that just puts it smack dab right in the middle. Again, as soon as you start the game, you're thrown out right in the middle of the state, and it just gets worse and harder the further out from that center you go, which is also pretty realistic. I mean, if you go too far west, you end up in the flatlands of Ohio, or if you go too far east, you go to Virginia, the state so horrible that we legally had to get separated from them. Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Maryland are fine. I'm not a huge fan of Maryland, but they give us the Baltimore Ravens and Old Bay crab seasoning, so they're pretty okay in my book. Upon arriving in Flatwoods, players will be greeted by a sign that says, "Welcome to Flatwoods, home of the Green Monster." This really serves two purposes from a game perspective. Number one, for individuals playing the game, it reminds them, yes, this is a Fallout game, even though you haven't ran into any major creatures yet so far in the game. They're out there. There are mutants and monsters and feral ghouls and other feral mutated creatures, along with several West Virginia, unique West Virginian cryptids, including sheep squash, the Flatwoods monster, the Grafton monster, and even the legendary Mothman. Also, immediately after you leave Vault 76, you will come across a couple of vans, Grafton Steel vans, that have been vandalized to read Grafton Steel, S-T-E-A-L versus S-T-E-L, which is a good introduction to the long-standing dispute in between corporations that put profits ahead of individuals and the workers of the Mountain State. We've talked about it several times on this channel, from Mate 1 to the assassination of Sid Hatfield to the Battle of Blair Mountain to the teacher strikes in recent years. This has been an issue that has, again, it started before the 20s, and it is still going on here in 2020. It is a long, drawn-out issue that has persisted. And Bethesda does a really good job at pointing the blame directly where it needs to be, not blaming the workers in West Virginia, not blaming the individuals of West Virginia, but putting the blame squarely on corporations and corrupt politicians. We have had governors be convicted of felonies. We have had governors and other elected officials that have just refused to pay taxes. And even right now, there is a case before the state Supreme Court that will have many, many ramifications for the future of Harper's Ferry and the historical Hilltop House Hotel. And again, this is a long-standing issue, but Bethesda approached it in a really good way. I hope you learned something today. This is pretty different than anything else I've ever done on this channel. If you like it, show it some love. So again, if you would like to see more videos where I talk about some of the history and lore of Fallout 76 and how it relates to actual history and lore of West Virginia, leave some love down below for this video. And until next time, don't forget to stay wild and stay wonderful. And I will talk to you later.